So to talk about some of this stuff, I'd like to really bring on stage one of the people that actually I've come to know for the last 4 or 5 years, Swamy Kocherlakota. He is the EVP and CDSO at S&P Global, and we've been talking about some of these problems. So please, Swamy, come on board. Thank you again.
Okay.
Good morning, Swamy. Yes.
Well, you covered a lot of topics there.
Yes.
Fantastic. Lots happening in technology, lots happening in the business. You know, the way I connected to what you shared is, at S&P Global, we're a 160-year-old company. And over maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, we started our cloud journey, right? So I'd love to talk more about what the journey has been and what some of the things that are related to some of the things that you talked about. Just to give you a little bit of a context, almost 80% of the technology that we have is in the cloud. And as far as the business apps, almost every single SaaS provider that's out there, we use them. Talk about your CRM for sales, or CRM for revenue, CRM for FP&A, CRM for financial. So I'm completely SaaS, if you will. Right? But I would love to talk, how we can connect what you shared with what I'm experiencing.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that introduction, Swamy. You talked about best of breed. All these names that you just came up with were best of breed in what they do. But they've also created this kind of crisis of fractured organizations where these best of breeds don't know how to really connect with each other. Their knowledge graph is extremely private. Now the question is, how does AI really come to help? So tell us about the problem statement first. What does best of breed do, and how do you create silos that we can come together?
I was talking to Dheeraj before. So every company that when they sell to an enterprise, they are not selling a silo, right? They are selling me the big vision. And obviously, as a buyer of technology, we need to separate what is the vision from what is the reality, right? And what is the roadmap. So going back to your question, if you look at how SaaS companies came in, they all started with one workflow, and they become the platform companies. And that's why when you talk about the sales workflow, you have one company that owns it, right? But while that company is building it, there are other new companies that came in, again, taking the SaaS platform mindset, and they took another problem, which is just the CPQ, right? And now that became a platform. So I have adopted these platforms over time, but what happens is, FP&A is another component, right? Long before, my current financials SaaS provider had an opportunity to build an FP&A from a financial planning perspective. I had to use a different provider for FP&A cloud. But then they have this big vision for the platform, but they can't execute it, right? So now what the situation that we're in is that I have these clusters of SaaS providers that have reached the edge of their original workflow around the personas that they can have and some adjacent personas, right? But as an enterprise, all these individual SaaS components, whether it's financials, revenue, order, lead, from a marketing cloud perspective, all have to talk to each other. So I don't have like an enterprise operating system that allows me to look at end-to-end. One of the reasons why I'm inspired by your work when you first talked about this notion about DevRel is to be able to bring that end-to-end view as an enterprise operating system to say, what is my product and how is that connecting to the customer and what are all the personas that we have in the middle. So the problem statement is to really take these individual platforms while they're investing in the platform, how do I make it as a orchestrated operating system? And that's the problem.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, it's true that humans have been busy in their work management tools, and every department is a work management tool. We call it issues in software, incidents in cloud, and tickets and opportunities. My co-founder, Manoj, he talks about how the back office is barely customer-centric. Maybe they're product-centric. If you're lucky, maybe they're product-centric. They're mostly code-centric as opposed to product-centric. And the front office is barely product-centric. the idea of dev is what is back office doing, and web is what's the front office doing and beyond. So you have this problem that you want to connect the back office and the front office together. And we are saying maybe AI does the job, because if humans are busy in their own departments, in their own silos, in their own work management, is there a classic integration challenge? So speak more about that integration opportunity between dev and web, between product and customer. What's the big challenge you're trying to solve for at SMB?
Yeah, I think this is where the complexity comes in. See, if you look at the cost plus complexity, a good enterprise makes it as a negative sum game as opposed to zero sum. But most enterprises have to start with a positive sum, meaning you have to take complexity out. You have to invest, and hence your budgets have to grow and all that. But eventually, you have to go back to cloud native, like the way you now talked about the AI native, right? So I think the fundamental challenge to me and the opportunity from an AI perspective, AI can become the new UI. By that what we mean, I'm sure you've probably heard about it from multiple people. It allows me to not worry too much about integration. Because if you have to worry about integration, you need UI experts selling or designing the UI for all the edge cases that are possible, and then you spend so much time design, and then ultimately become user unfriendly, right? So to me, the AI, and that's why I don't mind starting with retrofitting to see what are the individual AIs that each of the SaaS providers provide to me, and how can I extend them, right? Or in the case of an enterprise operating system, how can I make these agents that are located in different systems talk to each other? It kind of goes back to the original distributed remote procedures call. How do you really accelerate and orchestrate it? So that to me is an important problem that I wish that startup communities and companies like you would solve.
I love how you said it, because I hadn't thought about it until now that in many ways Slack became the only, or Teams became the only cross-departmental fabric on which people collaborated. And now it's conversations, which is the new RPC in some sense. You can actually let a lot of these things really connect to each other and collaborate and talk to each other as well. Speaking of operating systems and platform, tell us about some of the non-negotiables that the enterprise cares for today, which are things that one must solve for in a platform before which the enterprise will embrace it.
Yeah, I'll come to that, but to follow up on the previous comment that you made, the Teams and Slack, I think the big opportunity in the AI and Gen AI is much like when the internet came in, there were browser wars, right? And there was search wars. I think, yes, there are LLM wars going on right now, and LLM platform wars, I'm sure. I'm trying to kind of find out what are the battle lines. But at the end of the day, that user interface, what is the equivalent of the internet browser, and what is the equivalent of the app store, are open questions when it comes to AI and AI integration. Going back to your question about non-negotiables, at S&P Global, we have recently launched what we call as S&P Global AI benchmark, specific for the financial use cases. Because the general purpose LLMs are not designed to solve a specific subject matter expert, but we said, okay, let's write benchmarks on how do we really rate all of these open source models, and they're published at benchmarks.kensho.com. Take a look at it. The best model is only 85% right. So for me in the financial industry, I say that if you're 85% right, you are 100% wrong. So that's why when you say what is most important, what's non-negotiable, I don't have the luxury to give a deterministic answer with a probabilistic technology with 100% clarity, right? And to me, we need to address that problem. And then the valuations and the investments are like going back to like HA few years ago. Getting 85% accuracy, it doesn't really matter, it doesn't cost much. But going from 85 to 95 to 98 to 99 to 99.99, there's going to be exponential investments and innovation that needs to happen.
I love the way you said it. There's an asymptotic return from these things, and it gets harder and harder and harder, which is where this idea of contextualization, customization, iterating, experimenting, and platform probably matters a lot. Switch over to this idea of handoffs. What is an authentic handoff in the next 3 to 5 years mean for you? Because if you go back to cloud, there was obviously friction between developers and operations people and support people. I mean, how do you think of this conflict emerging, and what do we do to actually reduce that conflict?
Yeah, to me, the authentic handoff from these technology transformations is making technology invisible. Our customers at S&P Global don't really care where the servers are, what technology we are using. They are talking about how are you solving my problem, and then whatever technology that you have. So to me, the biggest opportunity, going back to what you mentioned earlier, when the internet came in, people were putting web pages and HTML pages. Right now, these incremental chat interfaces are just incremental, they're equivalent to HTML pages that we used to have. What we are saying when we talk to our customers is that, look, I don't want to go to a different system to do AI and Gen AI and a different system to be part of the workflow. Make the AI integrated and invisible in the workflow, right? And that to me is the opportunity, and goes back to the AI is the new UI. I can actually integrate my own workflows much more easily than ever before, and to me that's the important transition.
Thank you. Well, I mean, all the designers in the room, I'm sure they love this AI is the new UI. With that, Swamy, thank you again for doing this.